Okay, for this sequence, you're going to want to make sure that you have a nice firm pillow placed to the left of your receiver's head. You're going to come to kneel between their heels. Take a moment to sit up tall. Invoke your inner tree energy. Imagine your spine growing like a great sequoia straight up from the earth with your inhale. Branches spreading out with your exhale. Inhale, growing taller. Exhale, spreading. You can bring your hands together and create a little warmth. Let your eyes open, take in your friend, and settle your hands down to make a first contact with their feet. We're going to slide our thumbs and fingers to hold their fourth toes for a moment. You can rub the toe between your fingers, kind of roll it between your fingers to warm up this entry and exit point for energy. Give a little traction to those toes. Imagine them sprouting little flowers. And we'll let that go and use your right wrist to roll their leg in a little bit and then slide your fingers underneath the ankle to pick that foot up. Find a nice grip on the whole of the ankle and see if you can create a little windshield wiper action with their foot, rotating the entire leg, starting to warm up the hip. We'll let that go. And then bring that foot into your left hand, come up onto your knees and scoop behind their knee with your right hand. Walk forward a little bit and then step your right foot forward into a low lunge. Now we're going to find some circles with the hip by lunging forward and back so that your hips create the motion for their hip. Your arms are just assisting to make this a little bit more circular, but there's very little efforting in the arms. Your shoulders are relaxing away from your ears. And you're finding the range of motion that your friend's hip is willing to make without resisting you. So maybe if you feel a little tension, you can go smaller and slowly work your way into bigger and bigger circles. As you're doing this, see if you can bring your right knee down, keep the circles, and step your left foot across over the leg that's still on the ground. Then put their knee over your knee. So the back of their knee is fitting perfectly over the top of your thigh, close to your knee. Make sure that you're still facing their belly. And then if you push down on their foot, you should see their opposite hip lifting up a little bit. See if you can push down and lunge forward at the same time and create this kind of rowboat rocking action with your friend's hip. Your right hand can help encourage that motion by holding onto the thigh. And I'm rocking forward and back in my lunge, and I'm rowing the boat with my left hand, using their shin as an oar. Just a gentle twist. A little more warming up of the hip joint. Good. Slow that down. Scoot that knee nice and close into your hip now. And you're going to sit back enough that you can bring your left foot up all the way over your friend's belly and snuggle it into their hip. So I'm going to snuggle my heel into the hip joint. And this feels kind of like a wrestling move. Like we're all tangled up here. And the more you snuggle your heel into the hip, the yummier this is going to feel as you then lunge forward and make circles with your hips. You can keep snuggling that heel back into their hip. And you can lunge out to the side more overhead. Yeah, receivers, don't forget your sign language. Thumbs up means you're happy about what's happening. Tap out means it's a little bit too much for you. And a come here, gimme gesture means a little more pressure, a little more engagement. So just playing with this, exploring this bizarre tangle that that you're in with your friend. And then see if you can come upright. And if you turn yourself to the right, your knee turns to the right, you'll find that you give your friend, a bit of a pigeon stretch. So I'm rotating his knee out to the side by turning myself to the right. As you inhale, you can let that go a bit. Maybe snuggle that foot back into place if it slipped out. And exhale, turn to the right again. See if you can find this pigeon stretch for your friend. And inhale, let it go. Sit yourself back enough that you can bring that foot all the way up and over again, stepping it over their other leg. And scoot yourself back up so that, again, their knee is right over your thigh. Now's the time that you need that pillow, so you're going to reach and find the pillow and bring it right next to their ear. Just snuggle it into their ear and the top of their shoulder. So you're not putting it under their head yet. You place your hands on either side of your friend's torso. And right now your right knee is down and your left knee is up. You're going to switch that. Your left knee is going to go where your left foot is. So that knee comes down, the right knee comes up, and your right foot is now on the ground. So we've just brought our friend into a twist. Now that we're in this twist, you're going to reach across to their far arm, and you're going to lean back with your body, traction it so that it lifts their head up and magically deposits it on the pillow. Now we've got them on their side body, their shoulders are stacked, their hips are stacked. Now we're going to take this left hand and snuggle it in so that we create a little triangle of your arm, your thigh, and your torso, keeping their leg stuck in between those three things. That's going to stay there. My right hand is going to go behind the back to keep him on his side. My right knee now comes behind the lower back as my left knee comes up and brings his leg with it. So he's on his side with his knee up on my thigh. My right thigh is supporting behind his hips to keep his hips stacked. Now we have this amazing position to have access to the TFL, this gnarly little muscle right where the thigh meets the hip. So my favorite tool for this is this pointer knuckle. You're going to see if you can find the pointer knuckle in one straight line with your shoulder and slide the knuckle down the IT band, and right when you get to this dip of the hip, you sink your weight in. As you inhale, you're going to ease up. You're going to explore and see if you can find exactly the right spot. It should be a pretty strong sensation for your friend. You might take fingertips on fingertips. You're going to be, if you find the hip bone, it's a little bit below it and a little bit lateral to it. And there's a spot here that's fairly profound. Yeah. Once you find it, you might have an easier time just settling your forearm into that spot. Are we still on it? Yep. And we're just going to relax into that intensity for a few breaths. If it's not much for your friend, you're probably not on the right spot and you're probably too far towards the back body. You have to move slightly towards the front of the hip. Find one more related spot of tension and settle your forearm into it. I'm going to let that go. Bring the knee down. And we're just going to smush your hip towards the ground so your belly turns towards the ground. You might want to release this bottom arm for yourself. And we're going to lean into the outside of the hip. So hands are kind of like a butterfly, and you're just squishing right in the middle of the hip. As you inhale, you ease up, find a slightly different spot to squish into the middle of the hip, and pour in. One more spot. And then you'll take your left knee across, step your right leg forward, and we're going to walk our hands down the IT band. So you're going to palm, leaning into both hands, down the outside of the leg. So we did a lot of warming up the hip. Now that the hip is warm, we're taking any stagnation that we found in the hip and moving it down the gallbladder meridian. When you get to the shin, you can turn to face the shin and walk down the outside of the shin. Finding different places that your hands fit perfectly. Finding shoulders stacking directly above those hands to pour weight down the peroneals, the outside of the shin. Always feeling free to move the leg to make it comfortable for you to pour into. And pouring down the outside of the foot. And specifically sweeping off the fourth toe. For the second side, we'll catch this ankle, come back down towards their feet, and just roll your friend back onto their back. Pick up the foot on your left. Find that windshield wiper action, warming up their hip. Put that foot in your right hand, walk yourself forward, step your left foot forward, scoop behind the knee, and then lunge to create some hip circles for your friend. Finding the size of hip circles that will work best in your friend's body. And then slowing that down, putting your left knee down, stepping your right foot across, and put the back of their knee right over your thigh, close to your knee. If you push down on their foot, their hip should lift up a bit. If you lunge, it'll lift even more. We're going to do that rowboat action here, warming up the hip. Slow that down. Bring their knee closer to your hip, nice and close. Sit back a bit. Take your right foot all the way up and over your friend, all the way around, and then snuggle it into their hip and come back up onto your left knee and start to lunge and find some circles with your hips. You can keep snuggling your heel back into their hip crease. And go nice and slow and explore this sort of wrestling type pose. I have a friend who does jujitsu, and I asked him what you would call this in jujitsu. He said it's called a 50-50, you're both screwed. Or in Thai massage, you both win. Feels really nice in my body, super easy, and it's a really nice big hip opener for the receiver. You can try lunging more towards over their head, or more out to the side. Keep snuggling that heel back into their hip. And then come up again and try turning to the left, using your right knee to open their knee out to the side and give them a pigeon-ish stretch. So you inhale, you can ease up. So you exhale, turn again. Nice. Go ahead and unwind your leg all the way over again. Bring their knee back up towards your hip. You're going to take the pillow and bring it over to the other side, snuggling it in by their ear and their shoulder. Place your hands down on either side of their torso, and then switch which of your knees is down and which is up, and it should bring them into this gentle twist. You might have to scoot your right knee forward a bit so that their thigh is over yours. We're going to reach across with the right hand to catch their hand, and lean back to lift their head and put it on the pillow. You put their arm down. You're going to take your right hand and lock their leg into place just like we did on the first side. So your forearm is touching your knee to create this little triangle jail for their leg. Now you get this nice perspective of my left hand goes behind the upper back to keep him on his side, and my left knee is going to come behind the lower back as my right knee comes up and brings him into this TFL position. From here, you can find that duck hand, you can go straight to fingertips, whatever works for you. You're going to slide down the IT band until you feel where the outside of the thigh transitions into hip, and use whatever tool you liked best to sink into the TFL. Fingertips on fingertips is nice. It's nice and supported, and your fingers are really smart, so it's easier to feel with your fingertips. If you've been doing Thai for a while, other parts of your body will start to get smarter, so you'll be able to feel with your knuckles, with your forearms, with your knees. So choose the tool that pleases you, makes your body comfortable, and find some being energy to offer to this spot that's all about overdoing it. And take a few breaths, try to relax your own shoulders as you give. Find some extension in your spine. On your next inhale, gently let that go. Bring their knee down, up close to their belly. So you're going to take your hands to the outside of the hip and just smush your friend towards their belly. Let them slide. As you inhale, you ease up, find a slightly different spot on the hip, and lean your shoulders over your palms. Inhale to ease up, find another spot. Sink right into the middle of the glutes. Then you'll change yourself so you're a little bit lower, and you can step maybe your right leg forward into a lunge so that we can walk our palms down the IT band. Inhale and you ease back into your lunge. Exhale, your hands come to the outside of the thigh and pour. Each inhale you ease back. Each exhale you slowly pour. Moving any stagnant energy down the gallbladder line. Restoring flow. You can pour right into the outside of the knee. And then change positions again so that you're facing the shin now, and you can walk your way down the outside of the shin. Down the outside of the foot. Sweeping off the fourth toe. Gonna catch the ankle, draw your friend back, bring them back onto their back. You can straighten them out, take the pillow out of the way. Pick up both feet, walk in towards your friend. Use your knees to bend their knees out wide to the sides. Do a little bus driver, just rocking side to side. Your arms are straight and relaxed. And then cross their shins. Use your shins to hold them in place. So it's almost like they're seated cross-legged on the floor, but they're lying on their back instead. And your legs are holding their cross-legged for them. You're going to sweep down their arms and find their wrists. And then sit back into a chair pose like you're about to sit down, and lean back until your friend comes up and you bring them all the way to seated. Once your friend is in seated, you're going to come around to the right hand side. Use your knees to snuggle their shoulder between your knees. So I've got my back knee is behind his shoulder, and my front knee comes and snuggles in. I'm up on the ball of my right foot. You can relax their head onto your thigh, and then lean your left heel of your hand on the top of their traps on the other side. As you inhale, you ease up. As you exhale, you lean again. You can use the heels of both hands, finding different ways to pour into the traps. Each inhale, you ease the weight up. Each exhale, you find a new spot to pour. You want to make sure that your friend's shoulders are roughly over their hips so they're not leaning too far forward or back. You're pouring straight down in the direction their spine is stacked. Gently release your knees. You can hold their neck as you come around to the other side. Clamp their shoulder between your knees. Relax their head onto your thigh. And again, lean the heels of your hands into their traps. Each inhale, you ease up. Each exhale, you find a new spot. Find one more. And then release your shoulder. Come to kneel behind them. Take your hands on either side of their head, elbows in one line. With an exhale, squish their head. As you inhale, ease up, find a different spot. Exhale, squish. Just brushing down and off the shoulders and off the arms. Take a moment to separate from your friend. You can shake your hands off, shake off any tension you might have picked up. Come back into your center. And thank your friend for the opportunity to give and receive.